Welcome back to Andersen Acres. We're out here with Arwen today because we're talking about a topic that every goat owner should think about at some point. I'm trying to get Arwen in better frame, but she keeps following me. She's also very dirty because she's been laying in the muck. But the thing we are going to talk about today is castrating bucklings. If you're raising goats, especially for pets or as wethers, castration is an important decision that affects their health, their behavior, their overall quality of life, all that good stuff. Okay, and it's really mucky out here because it's melting. But this is an important thing to think about. But here's the thing. You don't want to do it too early, and you definitely don't want to do it wrong. So we're going to talk about why you should castrate your bucklings and why timing matters. And we are going to talk about different methods of castration. And we'll talk about the pros and cons. And I'll share which method we prefer. But everyone makes their own choice regarding this particular issue. Okay? I'm trying to get you in a good frame. Stop following me. Anyway, let's get started. First things first. When is the right time to castrate a buckling? Well, you might hear some people say to do it as early as possible, like 2-3 weeks old. But I'm telling you that castration too early can cause long-term health problems. The real recommended age for castrating bucklings is typically between 8 and 12 weeks old. Why? Because if you do it before 8 weeks, their urinary system is still developing, and early castration increases the risk of urinary calculi. These are painful and potentially fatal bladder stones. They're not fun. But on the other hand, if you wait too long, past that magic 12-week mark, your buckling could start developing strong buck behaviors like mounting, and he might start peeing on himself, which is lovely, and so he'll stink. So that 8 to 12-week window gives you the perfect balance between preventing bucky behavior and allowing their urinary tract to develop properly and thoroughly. That's important, okay? Where are we going? We don't know where we're going or what we're doing. Okay. Come this way, hon. Come this way. No, you don't want to come? All right, fine. Stand in the muck. So, if you're raising goats for meat, the timing is going to differ quite a lot because it depends on the goals. Some meat goat breeders prefer to castrate later and to let their hormones help with the growth. And there is a market for bucks for meat that have not been castrated. So not wethers, but bucks. So depending on what your goal is and what you're doing and whether you're raising for meat, you might have a slightly different goal in mind, and that might change when you castrate. But generally 8 to 12 weeks is the ideal window. So now let's talk about the 3 common methods. We have banding, clamping, and surgical castration. Each has its pros and cons, so we're going to go over them one by one. Banding is absolutely the most common, okay? It's also the easiest method, especially if you're a small-scale goat owner. It involves using a rubber band to cut off the blood supply to the testicles. Doesn't sound fun, I know, but it is the simple and easiest way to do it. After a few weeks of no blood supply, the testicles dry up and fall off. Again, I know it doesn't sound attractive. Honestly, very little about owning goats is attractive. So, judgment call. It's not fun, but it should be done. Not necessarily by banding, but castrating a goat that is not for breeding is kind of important. So what are the pros to banding? It's quick and easy. There's no cutting, so there's not a risk of infection, or not as big a risk of infection, and it works well for younger bucklings, okay? The cons, it can be painful for the first day or two, like really painful. Imagine if that was you, it can hurt. There's also a small risk of tetanus, so make sure your goats are up to date on their tetanus vaccines. If the baby hasn't gotten a shot, get them a shot, okay? So it's important to keep up to date on stuff like that. I know you're going through. It's fine. Go through. You also want to make sure that the band is placed correctly, because if it's not, it might not work properly, leading to some pretty nasty complications. Okay? You'll want to use an elasticator tool to stretch the band. You're not going to be able to do it by hand. Don't even try. And you want to place it really high up on that scrotum. Always double check that both testicles are below the band before releasing the elasticator. Okay? You need to make sure that the band is properly placed before you get out of there, because you don't want it to be in the wrong spot. After banding, the next most common method is probably clamping. This is my preferred method. Hi, I love you. I love you. But this is not a horsey video. Okay, snuggle, snuggle, kiss, kiss. I love you. It's not a horsey video, though. Horsey video is tomorrow. We will film your horsey video tomorrow. Today is a goat video. So clamping is my preferred method. Okay, I like to clamp. Not everybody does. I like the clamp. So clamping is also known as the, what is it called? Burdizzo? Something like that? Burdizzo? I can't remember right this second, but it's a method that uses kind of this special tool to crush the spermatic cords inside the scrotum. This cuts off the blood flow to the testicles without breaking the skin. Okay? The pros here is there's no open wound, so there's lower risk of infection. There's no need for bands or cutting. You clamp and go. It's a good option if you don't want to deal with bands falling off, bands breaking, having to replace them. If you don't want to have to worry about anything surgical, this is a good option. The cons are it requires a lot of hand strength. This is not something I myself can do because I don't have a lot of hand strength. In fact, I have pretty bad arthritis in the one hand, so I can't actually do it myself. Luckily, I have a really good vet, and Shadowfax is right beside me. Hi. But stop it. Hi. Shadowfax is not helping. But luckily, I have a really good vet who can help me, because it does require more hand strength than something like banding. Okay, so it is a good method. Can't get a good shot of Arwen. Doesn't matter. But it is a good method. But if you can't do the clamping yourself, you're going to have to get someone to help you with the clamping, because it can be a difficult thing to do. Can require a lot of strength. Another con is if you don't get both cords completely crushed, the goat may still be fertile, which can cause a problem. Okay? There's a horsey here, bugging me. Hi. Hi. You're a good boy. Yeah, just a good boy. I don't have a free hand right now. But, so if you don't get both of those cords completely crushed, there could still be fertility, which means you could still end up with little baby goats. So, yeah, be aware of that. It can also be painful immediately after the clamping. Like, it can hurt. I mean, you're clamping. You're squashing things. That can really hurt. So, the pain passes fast, but in that moment, it can hurt. Okay? So, you do want to be aware of that, because you might want to do some pain management beforehand. This method is best done by someone experienced, because if it's not done correctly, you can end up with a half-castrated buckling and not notice. The good news is, with the clamping over the next few weeks, you do end up with the testicles will shrink. And if only one shrinks, you kind of know you missed one. So then you can do it again. But I prefer to have my vet do it. The final option is surgical castration. This is exactly what it sounds like. The testicles are surgically removed by cutting open the scrotum. This is usually done by a vet, okay? Almost always done by a vet. Some people will be able to do it themselves because they have enough experience, but normally it's a vet procedure. The pros of this one are it's 100% effective. The baby making stuff is taken out and gone, so there's no risk of failure. It's got a fairly quick recovery as long as you have the proper aftercare, and there's no risk of retained testicles. Banding or clamping can have that as a risk. You don't have to worry about that if you have a vet do it surgically. The cons, there's a higher risk of infection because there is an open wound. Most expensive because it's done by a vet, right? So it'll be more expensive. And you will need pain management. It is not fair to your goat to cut them open. She's taking a nap against the wood. But it's not fair to cut them open and not give them pain management, okay? So please, please, pain management is important. If you go with surgical castration, you are going to need to keep the area clean and monitor for infection, okay? That's important. It's usually best for older bucklings or when other methods aren't an option because it is more invasive, it is more painful, more risk of infection. So this is not done commonly, but it is an option if the other methods aren't working. So which method is best? That depends on your level of experience with goats specifically. If you're new to goat care, banding is usually the cheapest and easiest option. If you don't want open wounds, clamping is good, but it takes practice. I like clamping if I have my vet do it. Okay, again, that is my preferred method, and I almost always clamp. If you want a guaranteed method, surgical castration is the most foolproof, but you're definitely going to need your vet. And it's best for older guys. You know, if you get an older one where banding is probably a bad idea, because banding should be done only to the young. It is very difficult to band if you're talking a year old, 2 years old. No, you should probably either clamp or just do it surgically. So you also need to remember, no matter what method you use, there will be some level of aftercare. So keep that in mind as well. Hi. He's a good boy. Hi. It's a pony. Yes, it's a pony. Pony time. Every video is pony time. So you want to keep an eye for swelling. Even with banding and clamping, things should be going down, okay? Not swelling up. Things should get smaller, not bigger. If you have swelling, call your vet. Make sure your goat is healing properly. Keep an eye. You want to make sure they're happy and healthy, even going through these procedures. Okay? Make sure they are happy and healthy. Well, that's about everything you need to know about castrating that doesn't come from your vet. Remember to wait until they're at least 8 to 12 weeks old. Pick the right method for you. Not everyone uses the same method. No matter what method you use, monitor for any issues afterwards. That's about it for us here today at Andersen Acres. Let me know in the comments, stop biting me. Let me know in the comments which castration method you use on your farm, and we'll see you tomorrow. And apparently we're still snuggling.